Welcome to Office Hours. Today I want to talk about ambition and contextualize what I think is a misunderstanding about the whole concept mathematically. So firstly, I am very familiar with ambition. When I was growing up, when I was a senior in high school, I decided I wanted to become a lawyer. And of course, like many young high school seniors in my demographic, I decided I wanted to go to a top 3 school. And a lot of people say that, but the thing is, I was serious. So, hit the ground running in college, 4.0. The summer between freshman and sophomore year, I did a legal internship in domestic violence and immigration nonprofit law. Came back to school, sophomore year fall, 4.0, even though I was pledging a fraternity. And then the next semester, I was doing a prestigious fellowship in my state capital. It was a legislative fellowship. And right before COVID happened, literally a couple days before everything went downhill, I had been accepted to do another high-level internship that summer in DC. So I understand this, in a way, compulsion to accomplish and succeed. And this one goes out to the high school pre-med kids. Some of you might be high school pre-med kids. Some of you might know high school pre-med kids. When I was in college, I dated a former high school pre-med kid, so I'm very familiar with the territory. But with ambition, what I think people fundamentally misunderstand is that you're chasing an ideal that isn't concrete. So there's always a version of you that is more successful or that is more ambitious than you currently are. And you run yourself ragged, constantly trying to shoot high to this ideal that really isn't tangible. So if we were to think about that mathematically, going back to high school math, which is something that if you are part of this demographic, you very likely remember this phenomenon. This is going to be an asymptote. So an asymptote, as we know, is a line that approaches a value but never reaches that value. It approaches that value into infinity, but it never reaches that value. And I can certainly relate to this. Back in the day, there was always a version of me that was better, that was stronger, that was faster, that knew more, that had a higher and higher chance of reaching these inherently high and lofty goals. But as you can see, this is a very self-defeating concept, because if you hold yourself to the standard that you are going to meet this value, that you are going to equal X, you never will. It's impossible. But this is where I think that certainly how I see things and how I think people could benefit from seeing things is if you add this to the model. So what happens when you constantly shoot at an asymptote? What are you ignoring mentally as you're going through this process? You are totally ignoring the area under the curve. So putting this in high school pre-med terms, you're shooting at this asymptote, but you're ignoring the fact that you had rock solid grades in middle school, that when your freshman year of high school, you were already taking advanced STEM courses, that you started taking AP courses and you're getting 4s and 5s on all of them, or that now you have this internship where you're shadowing somebody at a hospital and that looks good for your resume. And you can keep going, and as you get closer to this asymptote, yes, you're never going to reach your goal. You're never going to reach this intangible, perfect condition that you wish you could, that you aspire to reach. But underneath the graph, look at all this progress you're making. And you can put it in the terms of athletics. Let's say you want to be a champion wrestler, which is something I also wanted to do back in my high school career. You're talking about basic fitness, more advanced athleticism, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, long jump, stuff like that. Now you're talking about core lifts, doing 2x body weight on this or that, and you're becoming incredibly strong. Meanwhile, you're running this record that gets better and better every single year until maybe junior year, you're actually making it out of districts. And then you're worried about state, and then you're worried about college, and you're chasing this asymptote going into infinity, which you can certainly reach in a way by worldly standards. You get into that top 10 medical school, or you place third in the state, or you graduate with a 4.0 GPA, or you land the accounting big four, you land an internship there. And all of a sudden you have some really beautiful area under the curve, but unfortunately for you, and unfortunately for me, this value remains permanently elusive and unattainable. Well, I hope this was helpful to maybe help you find some positives where you perceive negatives. And this is something I still keep in mind in my life, because I know I still have that wiring in me that you could be running at the friggin' sky and you could go crazy running at the friggin' sky. But the higher and the higher you climb, I think the more satisfying, the more relieving, and the more practical it can be to spend some time looking down. Thank you, and God bless.